Congratulations. Now that you've taken your life formula process and you know what your life formula is and your heart virtue, we're going to describe what these pieces are. So this is going to be a little bit of an interview. And we want to have you have clarity and confidence about your life formula and how to use it. So let's dive right in. The pieces of your life formula are, number one, your heart virtue. Your heart virtue is the one thing that you're most committed to, and it's what drives you in every choice you make and in every decision. And by being proactive about speaking your heart virtue, you're automatically centering the world on what's most meaningful to you. So your life formula is basically a purpose statement that includes all these disowned parts of us, including our heart virtue. Why is it that we've disowned our heart virtue? Because every time you spoke up and said, this is what I want and this is what life should be like, people would bang you down and try to get you back into the comfort zone. So your heart virtue is the one thing that you're most passionate about, and it's most hidden because it was also the source of getting clobbered. Because whenever you spoke your heart virtue, you stood out. You stood out of the crowd. So your heart virtue is basically the first piece. It's the core of your life formula. When you speak your life formula, it's almost like a paragraph that represents your life purpose and your reason for being here and your future and the greatest contribution that you could make to humanity. The other piece, the next piece, is your pain. Your pain is your credential. For example, everyone has a calling in life. And for a woman who's had breast cancer, if she's been through the process of healing her breast cancer and she no longer has any trace of breast cancer in her body, she is qualified. She has special credentials for working with people who have breast cancer. So because she's healed herself, she's got more credentials really than an oncologist. For example, if I were to tell you, I'm sorry, you have breast cancer and there's a few things you can do. You can talk to an oncologist. He's going to tell you what the causes of your cancer were. He's going to tell you what the treatments are and what your chances of survival are. You could talk to him, or there's this other person you could talk to who's a woman who's had the same cancer you have. She's had a worse case of it than you have. She's healed herself completely and she's willing to share her story with you. Who would you rather talk to? You'd rather talk to the woman that had cancer. Most people would. And you may want to talk to both, but you definitely want to talk to this woman. Now, you've been through pains. Maybe you were abandoned, or you struggled with drugs or alcohol. Maybe you've been enmeshed with somebody or had some bad relationships, or you went through disease or disability. That's your credential. If you're functioning in life right now and you're doing pretty well and you've gotten through that, you have credentials for healing people of it. So it's not a mistake that you had some really difficult times. Those are actually preparing you for your life formula, something that you could actually use to contribute to humanity. Your life formula is not what you're good at. It's what you're sanctioned for. It's what you're given from birth in your life to be a credential. And very few people ask for their pain. It's the thing that happened to us without our permission. In fact, it's the thing that we would want for no one to suffer from. So, your heart virtue. Let's have a real life example. What was your heart virtue?
Mine was, I commit to self-expression, trust, and respect.
So you're committed to self-expression, trust, and respect. And your pain is?
My pain is...
Just in a sentence.
My pain is feeling alone.
Got it. So now, here's someone's committed to self-expression, trust, and respect, and his pain is feeling alone. You can already see how these are put together. Your fear is actually excitement. If two people jump off a bridge with a bungee cord wrapped around their ankles, one of them goes, ah! The other one goes, whee! What's the difference? They're having the same experience. One's afraid, but the other one's excited. Most of the things we go through that we call fear, we say, I'm afraid of public speaking. No, that's not fear, that's excitement. So say that. No, that's not fear, that's excitement. When we actually reframe our fears into excitements, they become something that we can face with courage. So when we asked, what is the thing that you're most afraid of, and you type that into this blank, the fear that you have is the one thing that we want to ask you to explore. Now, I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything dangerous. This isn't about getting you to go skydiving or bungee jumping or cliff diving or anything like that. This is about if you're afraid, for instance, of nursing homes or hospitals, or if you're afraid of public speaking, or if you're afraid of groups of people or crowds, or afraid of responsibility, maybe that fear isn't a fear at all. Maybe it's excitement. And the way you can tell the difference is because fear doesn't, a true fear includes danger. An excitement isn't dangerous. It's just something that we're avoiding, that we've always avoided. So notice that each one of these pieces, our pain, gosh, I wish I could forget that. No, that's your credential. Our rage, the rage that you have, actually was the second piece. Rage was before fear. Your rage is your commitment. So rage, if I was angry, would I be angry if I'm not committed to something? Isn't it true that every time someone's angry, they're committed to something beautiful that's either being blocked or violated? So our rage is an expression of our commitment. If it makes you angry, the thing that makes you most angry is seeing animals be abused, or see children be abandoned, or see women being treated with disrespect. Your rage, those things that really infuriate you, are the source of your commitment. So now we have your heart virtue, which is the core experience that you're committed to, your pain, which is your credential, the thing that you're uniquely qualified to bring to humanity, your rage, which is your commitment, the one thing you won't tolerate. So now you got somebody that's, it's like Gandhi wouldn't tolerate seeing his people in bondage, and Martin Luther King wouldn't tolerate racism. What's the thing that you won't tolerate? Well, look at your rage and you'll find out. Your fear, we already talked about, is excitement. Your taboo, this is the next piece. The taboo is the one thing that you'll avoid having people say about you. So let's say that my big taboo is that people think I'm dishonest, or greedy, or I'm someone that people think that my family is not upright or something. No matter what your taboo is, that's the one thing that people will use to stop you. So if my taboo, or you stop yourself with it, if my taboo happens to be that I'm, afraid of being abandoned, or I'm afraid people will think it's actually the taboo is more about I'm afraid people will think I'm a particular way, whether it's greedy or a jerk or arrogant, whatever that thing is that's most distasteful for you is the thing that is going to be the doorway you got to be willing to walk through. So your taboo, let's say it is that I'm greedy. All right, well, while you're taking your rage and your pain and your fear and your heart virtue and creating this life formula, this new vocation really is what is encompassed in your life formula. Your taboo is the one thing that you need to know that people are going to use to stop you. So if you use your taboo and you say, all right, I'm not going to get stopped just because people say I'm greedy, now you become unstoppable. That's what your taboo is about. Your facade. What is the face that you put on so that you'll be accepted by others? The thing that makes you socially acceptable. So let's take a look at a couple of these. What was your taboo?
What was my taboo?
I don't like when people think I'm
arrogant, overconfident,
right,
and a jerk.
Right. So an arrogant, overconfident jerk. So maybe professional speaking would be a great career for you because that's a career where people might say, well, he's just arrogant. Now imagine if somebody said that to you just before you stepped on stage. It would shut you down. So what you need to know is that when people say that, it's like that means you're even closer to having a breakthrough, even closer to having a really beautiful opportunity to express your life formula. Your facade. Who do you become so that nobody will ever think you're arrogant?
I become overly sensitive. I also become overly protective, concerned.
Right. So notice how that could distract you from expressing your life formula, your pain, your heart virtue. So those are the things that will stop you. So you're going to say no, or you're going to say yes to your taboo. I don't care if people do say that. And you're going to say no to your facade. I'm not going to be overly sensitive about this. Why would you basically give up these habits? Because your life formula is so important to you. You want to turn your pain around and make it a credential. You want to turn your rage around and make it a commitment. You want to turn your fear around and make it excitement. Imagine how just those three would work. Then we marry that with your taboo, which is what people use to stop you. Your facade, which is how you dumb yourself down. And the last one is your ditch. Where do we keep ending up in life? When you say, you know what, nobody's ever going to say I'm arrogant. What I'm going to do is become sensitive, caring about people. Where does that leave you in life? It's something like exhausted, broke, filled with anxiety and stress. It's something like that. What would yours be?
Mine would be anxious, stressed, and feeling less than authentic, really.
Right. So feel like you've departed from your authentic self.
Right. And not that I feel that I don't care about people or that I'm not sensitive, but going overboard and being overly so.
Right. Exactly.
Exhausting.
So that's when you can basically say, you know what, in this particular situation, when I'm expressing my heart virtue, when I've taken on a project so that my pain can be turned into a credential, and I'm using what I'm intolerant of to drive me as my commitment, and my fear is what I'm excited about facing, and my taboo, which is how people aren't going to be able to stop me, that they usually stop me. I don't care if people say I'm arrogant. My facade, I'm not, this time, my project is too important to be worrying about other people. I've got to get this message out there. My ditch, which is where I keep ending up in life, you said was anxious. So now you can realize if I volunteer for my taboo and I say no to my facade, I won't end up in my ditch, which is where all of us keep ending up in life. For me, it was overburdened and overworked. For some people, for a period of my life, my ditch was alone. I always ended up alone, doing everything alone. And my taboo had to do with, I was afraid people would think I was greedy or taking advantage of them. My facade, therefore, was I would make sure that I'd give things to people for free. I would volunteer to help them. I would make sure I was, like this Superman, that I would do everything. But where I ended up was alone all the time. I always ended up, because I'm doing all this stuff for people, and it was like I'd end up exhausted and alone. So when I decided, no, I don't care if people say that I'm greedy. Fine. In fact, you know what I do? I'm going to charge you even more money because my life formula is so valuable, it's going to change lives. And I'll tell you that when I actually said that, that's when people started inviting me to come out and speak and train and deliver my heart virtue for a fee. And it's the type of thing where we say, oh, it's too valuable to charge money for. Well, if you want to do it for a living, then it's worth it. And if you do charge money for it, you'll find a way to deliver even more value for it. So I made sure that when I started charging money for people knowing what their life formula was, that they really, really get the value of it. And then finally is your vision. What is it the world that you've always dreamed of living in? Now, you mentioned that, your pain, what was your pain again?
Feeling alone, being alone.
Right. So your vision...
Not being accepted.
Right, not being accepted. So your vision would be for a community where everyone is fully accepted, where people are not judging each other for being arrogant or anything like that. People are fully self-expressed. And look at your heart virtue, self-expression, trust. This heart virtue is brilliantly designed so that your pain and your rage and your fear and your taboo and your facade and your ditch all play together into a brilliant formula. It's like cookies. You take all those together. If you eat the ingredients apart, the flour and the butter and the milk, it's not very fun. But if you put them all together, they become an amazing chocolate chip cookie. And that's what these pieces, this disowned parts of yourself will become. What do we do with it? You just speak it. In every conversation you have, you take a little piece of your life formula and you speak it to people. Speak your heart virtue everywhere you go. And it doesn't have to be, ostentatious. Like you said, if your heart virtue has to do with self-expression and trust and respect, then just mention those words regularly in conversations. If a telemarketer calls on you and you're about to hang up, just say, well, I'm committed to respect. And I appreciate you calling. Have a great day. Click. If, you pull up to a toll booth, you can pull up and say, hi, how are you? You can say, I'm committed to self-expression. I love your sweater. Have a great day. These are just what happens when we do this is we build our field. If you speak your heart virtue, now that you know it, and you speak your life formula, now that you know it, you're going to find that the universe starts to see that you have a reputation. People are going to know you. Oh, he's the guy that's committed to self-expression. And then all of a sudden, when somebody's like, we need somebody here that could do a presentation on respect, or, we have a whole bunch of people that, they struggle with being alone and they're agoraphobic. We need somebody that really can help them get out of their shell. A guy that's committed to self-expression and trust and respect would be a perfect person to help with that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So these are the pieces of your life formula. We hope you've enjoyed this. If you want more coaching, I'm available. You're on the website, lifeformula.com or heartvirtue.com. Thank you for watching.